All right, welcome to the Catalyst Circle meeting. I think this is number 5. Wow. So we'll do a quick check-in and go around the room. This is just a opportunity to let us know how you're doing, where you're at, where your energy levels are, etc. But it's intended to be really quick, like 5 or 10 seconds. So we'll start with Joey and then move to Dimitri.
Hi, everyone. I'm doing good. And I've shared with Nori earlier that I have about 24 days of vacation I have to use or lose. So probably sometime in July and August, I'll be taking that. And June will be sitting in on my behalf at that point. And Nadia looks like a movie star with her sunglasses on. That's good.
Dimitri, how are you doing? And then Bullish after that. Or
doing well. We just got our power back, so doing okay. Because we haven't had power the whole day, but
glad to hear you have your power back, Dimitri, and glad you could join us. And sorry, Dumpling, you're next.
Thank you. Doing well, thank you. Nori and Joey chose to call me Bullish today. Really appreciate that. Kick-started my day. Nice to see you, everybody. Look forward to the meeting.
Mercy, how things going? And then Rhys after that.
I'm good. I've been recovering from something, but yeah, it's good. It's good to be here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mercy. Rhys, how are things going? Followed by Nadia.
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. Hey guys, hope everyone else is having a lovely day, and looking forward to getting stuff done today.
All right, Nadia, and then Harris.
I am fantastic. I got 2 new books in the mail that Nori recommended recently from the last session that you did. And I was like really excited to read these. So they finally came. I'm always excited to have new books. So that's on the menu. It's just fantastic to share resources and ideas so broadly and, you know, to be able to think together on stuff. So I love new book recommendations, and it's sunny here in Philadelphia, so it's a good day to read them.
How's it going, Harris?
Let me put on my Nadia glasses here. Yeah, no, feeling cool. You know, definitely, you know, appreciative to be here. Definitely energized. You know, certainly working really hard, but we've definitely got a lot of great things in the wings, and definitely, you know, excited for the discussion. Looks like we're getting a lot of good feedback from the community on things, so I'm pumped. Let's go.
Yeah, that the combo of the sunglasses and the backdrop is very serious. These are blue blockers, though. They're not sunglasses. Blue blockers, okay?
I see. Okay.
Please, JP, put that in the notes.
Blue light special. There you go.
JP, do you want to come off mute and say a few words, or are you?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. So happy to be here. Apologies, I can't be. I'm a little divided today, but super keen to be here. Really excited for the discussion, and happy to be taking notes in the background. And I'll be here in case anything comes up.
All right, awesome. And I'm doing really well. This is my second to last meeting before a 4-night, 5-day trip off to a nice little retreat place. So I'm gonna do a little recharging over there, but I'm happy to be here with you all because I always love these meetings and what we do here. So yeah, let's get started. I will share my screen, and we're going to jump into the Git board. Actually, before we do that, we should probably look at the agenda. So our consent agenda here is, can you see my screen with the agenda? Yeah, okay. So we're going to start with a recap discussion about outreach issue raised in Twitter space. And Nadia has 10 minutes for that. Overview of issue sensing process in DeWork and request for discussion on cross-group collaboration. Also by Nadia for 15 minutes. Community outreach reporting and KPIs. Discussion about appropriate outreach KPIs and reporting to show the work and improve our output from Rhys. for 15 minutes, and then next steps for code of conduct from Harris for 10 minutes. And there's a link to the Bullish poll there. Does that sound like a good plan? That actually takes us right up to a full agenda. Is that order okay with everybody? And are we happy to proceed? Anything else you want to add or remove or change?
I don't know if Rhys, the one I have first and the one Rhys has might be like kind of the same thing. So maybe we merge those and make it a better. I don't want to presume that, but maybe we can when we get
They're
there.
definitely related. I'm pretty sure Nadia copied my idea.
I did. That's why I deleted yours and put it later and put mine first in front of it, and that's how that happened.
Smart. We can merge them. We can merge them. Yeah.
Great.
Would you prefer to start with the sensing process and the DeWork stuff, Nadia, and then move into that, or the other way?
Let's start with the outreach one, because one, I think it's more fun and it's nicely on the heels of Dumpling's Twitter space, and less kind of, maybe we can do that first if the group agrees.
Okay. Let's do that. And I know I totally mangled the time, so we'll just, if JP has the time to do the math, you can correct those really quickly. Okay, so let's jump into our GitHub board. So for those of you who are following along from home, this is our prioritized problem board that the Catalyst Circle uses to track and report on things that have been raised or sensed from the communities. And this is how we track the problems and just report on updates and how things are doing over time. So we will start here with unassigned issues. So there's two here. One is community outreach reporting and KPIs. I think that's going to be a topic today. So does somebody want to be the driver for this, or should we assign that later?
I actually put this on the board because I just wanted to make sure it was put right, and so that we could get it assigned straight away. I'm happy to be a part of that, but I think it's kind of something that we can all kind of figure out today in the call. I don't know why it's a draft. It wouldn't let me publish it.
Okay. Yeah, you just need to assign it to a actual board the way this works. So I just did that. So now it's an actual issue. And then, okay, we can update this when we get to that section and assign some owners for that. And the other one is faster funding for Catalyst projects. Oh wait, that's in Circle sign off. Never mind. So we will kick things off with funded proposers. Do you want to talk to these tickets, Mercy?
I think I'm going to defer the issue number 7. How do we ensure that Treasury supports ongoing admin, community and governance projects to Harris? But I will very quickly talk to issue number 8, which is achieve clarification on the exact timing of release of funds each month to funded proposals. So that is still on the front burner, so to speak. We've had 2 meetings regarding this, and it just so happened that following our last meeting, there was some action items that Daniel Riba and Marek was going to pick up and bring a bit more information regarding. But then there is all this. It's just the stage of the Catalyst funding cycle that we are at, that they have been busy, but we did hear from Daniel, I believe yesterday, that they are working on it and they will give us a timetable as soon as possible. And then what we need to do is to message it to the community in terms of what their responsibilities are because for IOG to get this done, funded proposers do need to also ensure that there are certain things that they are taking note of and certain deadlines that are being met. So that is something that we are working on. But yeah, it's still front and center. Thanks.
Thanks, Mercy. Is anything blocking you, or do you need any coordination help from any of the other people?
Thanks for that. At this point, no. You know, as I've said, the main blocker was sort of working with other parties, and unfortunately, the other party was, you know, has been tied up with other priorities, equally, or maybe even more so, urgent priorities. So, you know, we're working through that. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mercy. Next up.
I was, oh, no, that's, it's all good. It's all good.
Did you have something else you wanted to report on?
No, I was just going to say that over the next couple of weeks, we'll just make sure that that gets done. And we're hoping that we can do a one-pager for communication. And there are other things that the subcircle is working on. But right now it's still in framing. So as soon as it's kind of well framed, we will bring it to board.
Okay. Thanks for the update, Mercy.
Thanks.
Community advisors, Nadia, what's up? What's coming? Do you have any blockers?
Okay. So we are currently, I was left for number 3 here, review and revise the prioritized problems workflow. I'm sorry, number 4, the community needs to prioritize and solve F8 sensed issues for Fund 9. I would like to progress this on the board from problem backlog to being worked on. Because we'll talk about that in the agenda, but it is being worked on. So I would say, so I want to recognize that I think we're not supposed to jump multiple places, but all of these have kind of happened in the past 2 weeks. So we went through and finished the researching part of understanding what the prioritization problem was, what the needs of it were. Then we sort of defined how we would do it. We did that with the subcircle within the CA group. And now we are, I would say, in the shared with community for input phase. So that's not to take a big leap, but to say that these steps have happened in a short time. And I think we can get to the shared with community for input place here. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. The proposer group and the proposal process lack official representation. This one is more just recognizing that there is a gap there for the like eyes on some of those process issues. And so I think we've talked about that a little bit, but this isn't like a quick to solve thing. And perhaps what it needs is maybe some outside of this meeting discussion among circle and maybe among some key, like by key, I mean interested in participating in the discussion members of the community. So we could just think about that. Because I do think that as we move into Fund 9, especially with some extra space, it could use some extra thinking and from a multi-role perspective. So that one's a question mark for me, and I'd love to hear what the rest of the group thinks about it, but I'm happy to like facilitate getting together discussions and that kind of direction. So maybe that could move into like the raw problems, just so it gets attention, because I think it's a reasonable time that we start to think about it, maybe not solve it initially, but what might we do? And then, so yeah, I think that's good. And then method for selecting Catalyst Technical Council, that was one that came to me, so I'm just gonna leave that where it is in the backlog. And then review and revise the prioritized problems workflow. I think that's me and Joey on there. And that could actually be part of the discussion today as well. Go ahead, Joey, sorry. You're muted.
So I know you and Stefan and Tivo had met, and Tivo did his Trello diagrams, and I did watch the video. So I'm caught up to that point. We just have to meet again at some point.
So it'd be correct to say that this is kind of in the researching phase?
Yes.
Awesome. Mercy, your hand is up.
Yes, I was momentarily distracted. Nadia, did you talk already about the proposal group, the proposal process?
I'm just to say that it's on the board as a consideration, and that I think it needs more like collective, collaborative consideration to use.
Sure.
alliteration.
Can we? Yeah, can I be assigned co with you?
Right.
Because the subcircle, the FP subcircle, started some work on that, so we can collaborate.
Great. And perhaps also for, I don't know, anyone else who wants, maybe it should be like a broad community discussion. I think it's great that it sort of has its origins in reviewing, but all the what happened over the fund and some of those joint after town halls we did. So perhaps that can be one outcome of that we just think about it more and start to come up with some different ideas.
Sounds good. Harris?
Yeah, I was just gonna recommend, as we're kind of going through these, if there's discussion or points that are captured, that we actually open the ticket and maybe add notes to the ticket, that we were showing the progress actually on the board itself. Because right now we're just sort of glossing over the high level and advancing, which is great. But if there's any actions or specific things, it might be good to actually update the ticket itself. Just a suggestion.
Nadia, can you update the tickets that we moved with just some text on what you just talked about?
Yeah, I would do that. Totally. And then I think that's all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, I think the ones that are lower down now are just ones that we moved. So I think I touched on all of those.
Okay.
I'm happy to contribute to that, Nadia, as well, understanding that proposal process.
So maybe the next step is Mercy and Harrison and anyone else here who wants to get on it. We could just start to look at what problems have been sensed here across the ecosystem and recommendations that are being made from the FP subcircle and try to start thinking about it. Well, the reason that I have it here as an issue is because there's a lot that affected the CA process in, or that people notice as part of the CA, the assessment process, and in this fund, and it's not really that group's sphere of influence. So certainly would love to contribute that as like thoughts from another group, but wanted to have it be more of a collective discussion.
All right. Thanks,
That's it for me.
Nadia. Any blockers? Any need for help from others?
No, I have a request for help, but not a blocker, and that can come in the agenda.
Okay. Let's move to general voters. Dimitri.
So I've spent the last 2 weeks again, as before, in various groups, Twitter groups, spaces, talking in general about the ADA holders' role or the Catalyst Circle's role, trying to fix misconceptions that people have about what the circle members do or what the circle members' power, authority, decision-making, or influence related stuff. And basically, there is a fair amount of misconceptions as well as lack of clarity as to what the circle does or what the individual people do. So I've had to explain to them regarding the actual boundaries and limits and of the power or lack thereof of the circle. So that's been essentially what I've spent most of the I would say nights doing in various Twitter spaces. So it's either like 4 hours from now, or sometimes it's early in the morning, like 6:30 in the morning. So that's basically what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. Also, regarding one of the prioritized problems that it was not one that I created, but it was one that I picked up, which had been on the board for some time, about the anti-scam platforms of on social media to prevent people. So I put it to the general public, but there was absolutely no response in that. So maybe people have lost interest on that, but there wasn't a single comment as to either that it is necessary or that it's not necessary. So maybe it's maybe we move it back into a dormant stage, I would say, because nobody seems to be really looking at that at the moment.
So everybody okay with moving it to the problem backlog? And should we just remove you as an assignee since there's no active work being done, or are you still going to pay attention? And
well, I mean, there is nothing that anyone is talking about it at all. So I took it up trying to reach some sort of a forward movement, but since there isn't, you could remove me as the assignee, because there at this point of time nobody's interested in it.
all right.
Just have some comments on that. If you look back through the proposals, there's several proposals out there that are looking to address that issue.
Were they funded?
I don't recall.
Okay.
That might be like a good place to start for people to work on it with you, Dimitri. Sorry, shares those with you.
So potentially some solution, could be that we, if we do see it as a common problem, that we would address it and maybe put it out as a challenge at some point. That's one mechanism of actually addressing consistent problems. We definitely have spamming that is sort of happening, and so that it might be something we can look at just as an approach. I'm not saying that specific ticket, but just in general. And then Dimitri, I know you've mentioned this a few times, as sort of the misunderstanding of the circle's role. Does it make sense to actually add a ticket then that we can track and maybe actually take action to help address that specifically?
No, it's more a case of organic. I mean, there's nothing that one can do in a great way to, like, for example, put out a press release or something. I mean, that would be one way, but I think it's more, I mean, we've done that already. And I mean, we've told so many times what the circle members can do and can't do, but that's in the context of the town hall meeting. Here, it's more in the wider, much wider Twitter world. So people of various groups meeting in Twitter and talking about it. I mean, this is the community who doesn't necessarily come to town halls. So therefore, they may not have a clear picture as to circle roles or responsibilities or powers or influence or whatever. So it's more a case, I think, of the more effective way that I would say is just to keep on doing what we are doing, because various, I mean, of us have been in various spaces and had to comment on the same subject. I think Rhys also mentioned at the last meeting how he also had the same similar experience. So I think this is the way to go, because when people bring up the issue, then we can address it. If we go and just like broadcast something, those people may not necessarily be listening at that point of time.
Since it is something that has come up a few times, I do agree with Harris. It should probably have a prioritized problem if the role of the circle is to listen. And if this is something that you're sensing out there, it'd be a great way to just track it. And then as a circle, you all can work on talking with your communities to see if there's a way to help the situation. Because it sounds like it may be like, even word it like, the community outside of the town hall participants aren't clear on the function of the circle and what it does, or something like that. And maybe there are ways the community can help or have ideas on how to improve that situation. So I think it's worth a ticket, because I think it is a problem that's being sensed out there.
I'm fine with that. I mean, we can certainly together bring out some proactive ways of doing it and see how that works.
Does somebody want to create that ticket? And we don't have to do it right now in this meeting, but just as a takeaway.
Do you mind adding that ticket, Dimitri, since you're sensing that problem?
Yeah, I'm fine to do that. But what I'm understanding is that we will then formulate some sort of action plan to address this specific problem. Now that we have a formalized ticket that states it as a problem, we'll create some sort of action plan to solve the problem, right?
Or to solicit the community to help solve the problem. I don't think the circle needs to fix every problem, but they need that. If you look at the way the tickets kind of progress, it's to work with the community to come up with some solution and then hopefully drive towards some kind of way to improve the situation. But yeah, it's certainly not designed so that you individually as the circle need to fix the problem, but really to steer and sense and guide the conversations and have the community fix the problem.
Right. So what we are going to do is to guide the community how to fix their own clarity and understanding about what the circle is and does, right? That's what we're talking about.
And that doesn't mean that the circle themselves can't be out there doing Twitter spaces and trying to help the situation. But yeah, I don't think it's solely on your shoulders. So yeah, I just wanted to make that clear because some of these problems are, we sense the problems, put them on the board, discuss them as a circle, discuss them with the community, and then collaboratively come up with some kind of plan. And that's, the board is really there to track that process, to say, this is what we did, and here's how we engaged, and here anybody can go and look at the history of this. Yeah, Rhys, your hand is up.
Yeah, just quickly, I think we'll be able to come up with some decent, I don't know whether it's KPIs or like stuff to work towards to be able to show that kind of work later when we start discussing the stuff in more detail. So I think if we just leave it till then, we'll be able to figure out something that we can actually add specifically, which will give everyone a bit more clarity on what to do on it.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll do it as part of that part of the meeting. All right. Any blockers or help you need from the others, Dimitri?
No, it's going pretty well. So far, there haven't been any situations which need any particular help per se. There was one situation where one person was kind of getting out of hand and I had to block him. So other than that, nothing else was needing input as such.
Okay, thank you. Harris for IOG.
Yeah, sure. So with the CCv4 elections, I know there's some in the actual ticket itself. I guess there's some input from Tevo and maybe some admin work that's been done. You know, it's in our charter of the things that we actually do. So I just added it as a formal ticket so we can track it. You know, there are some proposals, you know, that we could run it sort of through the existing Catalyst process. But I think we'll probably need to have a working session to discuss that, maybe in the next week's Thursday meeting working session. We can discuss it there. Yeah, definitely have been involved in some of the Treasury discussions on the raw problems there. And I think, yeah, that is sort of in our IOG's court to progress that. Improving awareness of Project Catalyst. So I wanted to maybe ask the circle, is anyone going to Consensus this year?
I think that I'm going, but I'm not 100%, but odds are good.
Cool. Yeah, no, there will be some presence. Charles is actually speaking at Consensus this year. I'll plan to actually be there and attend, and there may be some opportunities to talk about Project Catalyst. So that might be something that is coming up. And yeah, so I do have that action. There are some other potential activities that are ongoing related to that, which I'll update probably in the next meeting. Okay, so I've added myself to this next ticket, number 10, just now. So we'll dive into that, and maybe we can discuss some of that in our working session. So I have not progressed that. The code of conduct, we've definitely been able to create the poll, what do we call it, the wiki survey. I've got a good number of points of feedback actually on that, which we potentially could use into the agenda item we'll discuss today, but looking to kind of establish sort of next steps. We've not conducted any after town hall related to this as of yet, but that's something we can talk more about. And I'm hoping that I can get some support for the circle to continue some of that discussion. I know there was a lot of good ideas, and we do have some documents and input, which is great. But to sort of get it across the line and say, okay, here is our final input is something that I expect to try to work on next and get some closure on, okay, here's what we think the list is for now. And then we would form that into an actual code of conduct with the help of IoT Legal. So that's sort of my objective, is to get that across the line. So I'm definitely working to drive that.
On that topic, since the next after town hall is going to happen before the circle meets again, do we want to commit to doing an after town hall session next week, or is that still too soon?
Yeah, let's talk about it in the 10 minutes that I have coming up in the agenda. So, how do we remove IOHK? That is a bit stalled right now, so that's something I need to kind of come back and address. And then the toolmakers and maintainers item for prototyping. I think there is some work that's being done. I don't, maybe Joey, if you have further updates in terms of this one, I haven't tracked that one more explicitly. And as far as the prototyping of this last one, I'm just going to open it up here. I can probably add some notes with respect to this. We do have some discussion going on better coordination with developers and kind of looking at more open source kind of directions, and so that's something that is ongoing, and we'll be sharing more details with that upcoming soon. Yeah, Rhys.
Yeah, on the onboarding and introduction systems, been chatting with Tivo and some of the people at Catalyst School. We got a meeting tomorrow to actually talk about the kind of stuff that I was putting forward to help work towards that. So that is moving along. I know that wasn't, I don't think that's technically your card, but we've definitely been working on it, and that is moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not blocked on anything specific, but definitely having some focus in a couple of areas and trying to actually move these along is something that I'll do moving forward, to try to show that the circle is progressing and actually making progress. I think is something that we should all take on, and advancing these, because this is the proof that we're doing work, and this is the proof of what does the Catalyst Circle do, and brings validity to sort of what we're doing. So definitely I'll do more to help participate in that.
Thanks, Rhys. Any blockers or help you need from others?
Not at this time.
Joey for toolmakers and maintainers.
Okay, I think this is where everybody notices I do a lot of mumbling and fidgeting around. I feel like the proverbial chicken in the road. I don't know where to go with some of this stuff. But I did spend some time going back through all the circle minutes. And I want to thank Stefan and Vanessa for the good work that they've done. They really did a really great job of documenting all our past participation. And so when I looked at it, I know there was a lot of activities with Circle 1 and Circle 2, and there's an evolution with this, with the circles. And I think right now, as far as Circle version 3, we really don't have any activities in these as a priority problem, although there's a lot of activities. So I looked at it from perspective of what has been done in the past, and you got to hand it to the previous circles, Felix and TiVo and the other circle members. It kind of is running under the radar, but just like with the proposals, how the proposals just skyrocketed, and we've got tons of them. Well, if you think about all these items, the communication from the time when they needed more CAs, and the circles went out and they went to the community, and we got tons of CAs. When they wanted personal communication space, they started Discord. Now we have thousands of people in Discord and Telegram. Just about any time of the day you want to go out there, there's somebody communicating on some aspect. And then you got the after town halls and all the fezzes and et cetera that are going on. I mean, it's amazing just how much activity has expanded because of some of the efforts of the circle. And look at the town halls. I mean, you go to a town hall now, and after town hall, there's like a selection of like 15 options, and I'm like, I want to go to 3 or 4 of them at the same time, but I can't. You know? So I just wanted to say that, as far as, because Kara's kind of alluded to this, that showing what the circle does, if you step back and you look at the communication and collaboration going on in the community now, it's just astounding. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So people are focused on the numbers and the proposals, but if you step back and look at all the places you can go to communicate in the community, it's pretty awesome. So anyway, I went back through these, and there's a lot of things going on here. And like I was saying with Dimitri, if you go back and you look at some of these actions here, I mean, we've got, for example, if you go out and look at the proposals, just on trust alone, there's like 28 proposals out there. So I'm thinking, okay, the community is not waiting on us to decide what they need to do. The community is moving forward. They're saying we've identified a problem and we're moving on it. And TiVo actually said this in his meetings with Stefan and Nadia, that when he sees a problem, he puts in a proposal. You know, and the proposal is supposed to be a solution to that problem. Now, the one thing I see, and we can go through these individually, because I think the reason they're still attached to the TNM as the lead on them is because of during that Circle 1 and Circle 2, it was not only sensing, but there was hands-on. I mean, TiVo and Felix were hands-on doing things. And I mean, for example, TiVo and Felix are all part of the swarm, coordinating, connecting people, part of the Catalyst School, part of the Gimbal Labs education process. So all these activities have been done during those circles, but they continue to be done and continue to mature as they go. So it's not like there's one activity in here for Circle 3 that I can say, hey, this is mine and I'm sticking to it. The only thing that, as far as listening goes, is once the people have these proposals and they turn into projects and they complete the project, is how do they integrate them into the community? You know, what privileges do they have versus what IOG or the other organizations, the triad of the foundation and IOHK and IOG, you know, they have the final say in what is integrated into community. And so there's some questions around that. And I think, and Harris, you've been very productive in that already. You're going to be meeting with some people to talk about some of those issues. So I appreciate that. So
if I can
I don't
just
know what to
interject
do.
a little bit, Joey, just for the process, these cards are meant to be a process. And
Yes.
they start from the backlog to raw problems, the researching to well-defined problems to shared with community for input, and then it's picked up ready, and then there's some kind of prototyping or validation, or it's rejected or integrated. So there's a flow there. And if you think that some of these are well into there or even done, it would be really great if you could go back and actually add comments like you just described, all the stuff that was done from
Okay.
circle 1 and 2, if these are from that era of ticket, and just kind of bring it along to the current state. And then we could discuss it really quick at a stand-up. If you say, I think this is done, we can close it because of these reasons, and it's well tracked through each of the tickets, rather than just having these kind of float every week. I don't know if they'll ever get to resolution unless we put the effort in to actually analyze and move them through the different stages and talk about them. And as Stephen has mentioned, we shouldn't be changing statuses outside of the meeting. So doing the prep work ahead of time by just making comments in the ticket and saying where we're at and any recommendations of next steps would be a really great way to kind of either close these out or move them forward.
All right, I will go do that. I don't think these are ever going to be closed out. I mean, listening culture, you're always going to have these trust and participation. I don't care. You're always going to have it. And
yes.
So as far as closing the
we do need some
itself,
kind of measurable outcome, and it doesn't have to be solving it 100%. It could be saying, we're going to take the first 2 or 3 steps and this is what they are. And then we can close them when we achieve those. Because yeah, some of these problems are forever problems, but the stuff on the board should be solvable in some way. So we need to constrain them or scope them in some way that they're achievable.
I will go through and do that.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thanks. Any blockers or anything, or any of these tickets you actually want to speak specifically to this week?
No, not really, because again, there's a lot of proposals out there that address almost everything in here. At this point, no.
Okay. And that would be a good way to update the tickets, is to point to those proposals and just have that kind of thread of thinking so that people looking at this can follow that same chain and understand, here's 3 proposals that seem to be addressing this. That's really good data to be populating into these cards.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Nadia.
Thanks, Nori. I just have a quick question about archiving. So it just occurs to me as I'm sitting here, one of the earlier tickets that was closed was the need for this arbitration process or like resolution process for VCAs once that assessment period is done, for them to raise or contest outcomes of their rewards based on the scripts that are run afterwards. Hope that wasn't too terminology heavy, but so we closed that ticket, or I closed that ticket because we had accomplished the creation of that process. But for archiving, it would be great. Perhaps I should go back in there and add what actually happened, because now it is in process and working. Great. And it was nice to archive that stuff in there as well, so that it's not just, oh, we need a process, we created it, it's done, but also like, here's what happened and here's what we learned as a process.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And there's a validation reporting status, and
Okay.
And the problems never go away, so you can always add comments to them over time. So they're still there even if the status is in one of the done states. Harris.
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, the concept of, we're making progress and actually showing it in the tickets is good. But maybe there's sort of an end of circle closeout report that we actually can share with the community of what we actually accomplished. So maybe we'll give some final presentation, and maybe that's part of town hall possibly, or at least part of our update to say, here's the problems we addressed, that we noticed. Here's the problems we've actually come up with some solutions for. It just might spread the word of production that we're actually producing something specific.
That would be fantastic. And also, like, one of the things we're seeing happening in this process anyway is we changed some things and we didn't actually fix some of the process things, but meaning through the VCA assessment process, where it created new things that were issues, but the resolution process we anticipated it would give people an opportunity to contest. But what we're noticing is it also changed the entire way that people are responding. It's giving a way for us to handle these things in a way that's much more productive and much less volatile. And so perhaps it's something that could be included in other areas as well. So it would be good to capture, like, not just learning for that, but make recommendations in that kind of an archiving report as well.
Good points. JP, you had your hand up. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was only going to say that it's really helpful if we can do that approach as well for any of the closeout reports. So we're not having to belabor you guys all the time. We can go through and find out, okay, what was the solution? Was it successful? Blah, blah, blah. And we can include that information. So the more you can include it there, the less we have to rely on always coming back and bothering you for this information.
All right. Joey.
Yeah, I guess the way I look at these, I mean, how do you find the end of a circle? You don't. The circle just goes continuous. And the way I look at these issues is continuous improvement, like I would in any continuous improvement process. So you can kind of measure how you change things, but like Nadia kind of implied, that you change one thing and it may affect another. So you got to go and change that. So you're always improving. So I don't know if there's a beginning or end, you can show that, but I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I was referring to like the end of Circle V3, for our own progress reports, like what did we contribute as Circle members?
Yeah.
But yeah, it will be continuous. There'll always be new problems.
Yeah. Okay. Dumpling, do you have anything to report on?
Yeah, so the issue of the communications gap, last week we had a Twitter space. Or was it last week? Or was it a few days ago anyway? We had Rhys, we had Nadia, Mercy, Dimitri, me and JP. We joined and talked directly to the community. A lot of great questions were asked, one of which was, why is the circle so important? So each of us gave our answers. Some people were really spicy. They were saying, so the circle is important because the circle is important. Well, at least people did give some great suggestions. For example, somebody suggested a cross-platform outreach plan. So getting the words out there for the circle. Currently, the circle has low level of awareness because people don't really know what we are and what we do, unless they really know where to look. So this suggestion is directed at increasing the outreach of our circle. It could be a different team that we build, or it could just be the admin team or just among ourselves. I think that's something we could discover later. The platforms could be Twitter, Reddit, Cardano forum, or even the after town hall. Another thing that was brought up was the notion of human sensor array for issues. So people were asking, what is the circle capable of if we can only sense problems but have no authority to change things? Then what was the point? I thought that was an interesting question. Dimitri came later as well. He was very eloquent and gave great answers about his role, took some community feedback as well. So moving forward, what I want to do is to explore the possibility of doing this kind of communication with the community regularly. especially regarding the sensor array aspect. Building an open platform for all community members to come and present, showcase their problems to their respective reps. So for example, Rhys, you and I, we can have the space where people can bring their SPO related issues to us in the space. So instead of us reaching out to people one by one, to our constituents, we can have people come to us in one space. I think another added benefit is that then we're no longer presenting and discussing issues in silos. Then we're all together in one space. People can help each other discover solutions and feedback. I think it might be a very effective way of communication. That's my update. I don't really have any blockers or need help. Thanks for listening.
Dumpling. And it really does sound like later we should create a ticket around the community outreach and letting people know about what the circle does. I think it's a recurring theme across multiple reports here and seems to be a hot topic. So we definitely should have a ticket in this backlog so we can track all the activity that's happening and the sensing that's happening. Thank you for the update. And then last but not least, Rhys. Oops. For the SPO board.
Yeah, the nurturing the listening culture in Catalyst is, as we've all kind of said, is an ongoing thing. I think the space was really good. I think I agree. We got loads of really good feedback, and I kind of made another comment based on that other card, which is about the KPIs, and I really think it's important that we have a good chat about that today and try and figure something else out to bring back to the community to kind of explain how and what we're doing with some metrics, because that was something that people seem to want, basically some actual physical feedback, like something they could check, some kind of numbers or something. But we'll get onto that. What else have we got? We've got the undefined or miscellaneous challenge. So this is something that I put a comment in here where I had a call with Felix yesterday, and the three of us, the other person is Laurus from 24/7, who was, I think, the first Catalyst Circle rep for SPOs. We had a call. We've set up like this a server SPO guild, similar to the NFT guild and other things that Felix has set up. And we're going to have a call tomorrow to figure out how we can champion a challenge going forward. So we'll obviously put a proposal in for Fund 9, which we're going to figure out in our call tomorrow. And then we're going to get that kind of ready for submittal as soon as possible and run it past some people, other SPOs, and start bringing people into the server to start that discussion. And so that's a really good step. I think that's something that's missing and has been missing from Catalyst. The last one was a bit of a mess because there were two very poorly funded challenges, and it made it very hard for any SPOs who were trying to do something for the community to kind of fit it into the categories. So one strongly defined challenge that helps SPOs get more involved is going to be a great solution to that, I hope. And then the other one, how to involve SPOs in Catalyst. Oh, wait, is that the wrong one? Have I jumped the gun and talked about the wrong thing? Oh no, this is it. Okay, cool. So I'll tell you about it again. No, so I've got a meeting set up with IOG, Becky, and some of the others at the community outreach in IOG to get on the SPO call and have our own breakout room, which I mentioned in the last call that we were getting sorted, and I've spoken to her and mentioned to you guys a couple of times about doing so. But hopefully that's moving forward now, fingers crossed everything goes well tomorrow. The feedback I've had and the discussions I've had on Twitter with them about it have been very positive. And so hopefully tomorrow we'll have a definite thumbs up from everyone at IOG about us having, or me having, a permanent space for exactly what Dumpling was talking about before, a place where SPOs can actually come and bring something to me directly, or we can have an open discussion similar to the space right there where a lot of SPOs congregate. So hopefully that's going to be a really good opportunity to get some good feedback from the SPO community. And I think that's it. From me.
Thanks, Rhys. I think that's everybody. And I think we're actually right on time to the minute. Okay, let's jump into our consent agenda. So we'll kick it off with Nadia and the recap discussion about outreach issue raised in Twitter space.
If it's cool with Rhys, I'd love to just defer to Rhys because I just threw this up to make sure we talked about it, but I think you maybe have it more formulated, and I will like happily let you do that instead of me.
All right.
if that's cool.
Let's do the community outreach reporting and KPIs.
Yeah, cool. So if we have a little look at that card, I kind of brain dumped it a little bit. What happened in the space was people were asking where numbers were, like where's the evidence? And this is something that I think has been missing. And, you know, maybe there is it's a difficult thing to quantify, and that's an issue, right? That we can't say, unless we have very specific goals, it's hard to say, oh, you know, every week we have 10 or 5 calls with different team members or community members about blah, 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 you know. But what I think is really important is that we actually figure out some sort of definition, some quantifiable feedback that we can provide to the community, so that, because it's very easy to, like what Harris was saying earlier, actually is a really, really good suggestion, where he was saying anything that we do, we should just comment on the cards. You know, any little resolution, any bit of feedback, any next steps should all be documented on the cards, because although a lot of people don't really come and check this, being able to show people this is really, really important, because right now the issue that we're having is that there is a separate narrative that's been formed about what we're actually up to, which is inaccurate and it's misleading, and it kind of sheds our work and the stuff that we're trying to achieve in a bad light, which creates a very negative sentiment for Catalyst and the circle and how it's managed and the administrative process and behind it all, which I think is unfair, because everyone that I've ever spoken to in Catalyst has the best intentions for the community and not for themselves. But that's not really what's happening in the community discussions right now. You know, that's not how people are talking about these problems, and we need to try and address that. And one thing that I have found, which is, which in here I say Lido specifically, was bringing up these things, because he was the one asking me questions and kind of asking the hard questions and making me think about it, right? And I'm really grateful for that, because he had a really, really good point when he kind of brought this up. You know, he's like, well, where is the work that we've been doing? And yeah, you know, we can show him the boards, but unless we're providing feedback, unless we're providing numbers, then it's very difficult to, it looks good, you know, that we've got all these cards and things are happening, but you know, it's not, it would be easy to dismiss some of the stuff, even though I know everyone, including myself, are working hard on this and trying to get things moving forward. And that's why I said at the bottom, it's not accusatory, but it seems very relevant that we address this and come up with a plan to be able to provide that information going forward.
So for this conversation, Rhys, what are your hopes for outcomes? What would you like the circle to work on here? Is it a conversation, or do you want actual KPI ideas?
Yeah, I mean, KPI ideas would be great. Yeah, no, KPI, if someone has any ideas, I've got some things like meetings, discussions, survey spaces, like just as questions, because I don't know what's appropriate, you know, and I don't want to try and put goals in front of us that kind of skew what we're supposed to be up to. And that's the risk with any kind of reporting of numbers, right? Because we run the risk of changing our behavior to help in the community to getting as high a score as we can, which is kind of counterproductive, you know, and that's the risk of it, which is why the discussion is quite important, and it's quite why we actually talk about this and then come forward. But what I've found in like the last 2 calls, because of all of the drama that happened and kind of came out around Dimitri, which, you know, like isn't absolutely, is completely unfair and unfounded, but it's besides the point. What has happened is we've spent a couple of weeks dealing with that and kind of trying to shift the narrative and explain, and we put on the back foot where we have to justify our behavior and justify our position rather than doing the work that we should be doing. And we need to get back on track. And this is a good way that we can prove that kind of stuff to the community so that we can get back on track and we can shift the narrative to be more positive, and the outlook from the community be a bit more positive about what it is we do. Because otherwise, the circle will be disbanded before it's done much, which is completely counterproductive, but you know how groupthink works, so we need to try and address it in some form. Go ahead, Rhys.
Yeah, I think, certainly one of the places, we have is town hall to potentially share what we've heard, and actually echo back what we're listening to and what we've heard, and having sort of a sense of reports of okay, we're hearing this in the community, and then those folks that have the same question or concern, will understand that, okay, we heard it, we're listening, right? And that's one way we can share improve our listening skills across the board, is okay, we echo it back. And I know we're doing a lot of reporting on tremendous progress that's being made in certain areas. Certainly we've got a lot of great representation on the CAs and I think the proposer side, but we are sort of light in some of the other areas in terms of weekly updates in terms of what's happening and what we're doing. So even if there's no progress, reporting on what we've heard, I think can be of value.
And actually, to speak to the town hall thing, I have a class. I have until 7:30 BST, which is about an hour and a half into the town hall call, which usually means I have half hour to 40 minutes that I can potentially join one of the breakout rooms. And if you're looking to, or if you want to do something like that, Harris, I can be there every week. I won't be able to do it till the end, but I can at least be there for the beginning, and we can start that conversation, and I can help contribute towards that.
Okay, if there's slides or something that could be prepared in advance, and one of us could step in and read it for you also.
Yeah, I meant for a breakout room, where we can have an open discussion with the community and we can talk about those kinds of things.
Yeah, we should do that also. But I'm saying, if we're sensing things, we put it on the board. When we have our moment, where we're talking about circle status, there's an opportunity to echo back what we heard. That's so in addition to after town halls.
Nadia.
Figuring out how to ask this question. My from listening to you and from Rhys and from being on the Twitter space, my sense is it's like the outreach piece I think about is okay, here's so one, we're compiling and making it easily digestible what's happening. So less valuable that we've had 5 meetings, more valuable, these are the things within Catalyst that were issues. Here was the response and here was the outcome. And maybe the numbers are important, but my sense from people who dissent about Circle is that there's not a real sense of value of the role itself. And that if we demonstrated that with both in a qualitative and quantitative way, that's one piece. And the other piece is we're not putting it in places where the people who are feeling this way could find it easily. That was one of the comments about, I think town hall is an excellent place and I totally agree with that approach, but also 97% of the people who might be upset in the Twitter space, they're okay, well, we're over here. And if our work is to listen to them and we're only over here, that communications channel doesn't exist. So it's the maybe packaging of information in a way that it makes it relevant, but not too much to understand. And also the delivery of it. And the being thoughtful about that delivery method. Is that, go ahead.
Mercy.
Yeah, and I forget who said it, but somebody at the Twitter Spaces, I think it was, somebody anyway. The fact that they brought somebody, town hall was a bit too overwhelming, and they haven't come back since. And that is something that I myself strongly identify with. Trying to get inside of Catalyst can be really daunting. you know, from Telegram, you know, the whole issue of Telegram. We are so comfortable with Telegram. But for a first timer, ETC, even the announcement channel is, you know, it's huge. One of the, and I see, thanks, yeah, it was Dana. One of the things that she suggested was actually to get a professional, you know, so, you know, as she was talking, what I was thinking was, okay, so maybe that would be a good proposal, whereby, you know, this is a person that knows how to break down information in, like, you know, like at a grade 8 level, and is able to figure out all the channels to actually make sure that it goes out there. What I've realized is that because we are so comfortable even within the Catalyst Town Hall, you know, for all of us, there are some information that maybe somebody would ask in the group, and it would be like, yeah, it will be discussed at the town hall, or it will be raised at the town hall. But the town hall, you know, like it's a whole about 90 minutes at the minimum if you want to stay in the whole thing and also participate. Of course, you know, anybody can watch the you know, the videos afterwards. But I think that there is a barrier that we really actually need to figure out the science of getting people more easily onboarded, because it can be quite intimidating when you come into this whole space at the beginning. The second thing that I want to say is, you know, I've always found it a little difficult to, you know, sense issues and then right away put it into town hall instead of bringing it to circle for us to, you know, sort of on a consensus basis, okay, this is what would be the best way forward. I find it a little, it's like, okay, so this is the issue, bring it to town hall. So what, you know, like, because I cannot make a single-handed decision that sort of, this is the next steps in a sense, I think. I just feel like this is something that should be more of a consensus thing before it even goes into, you know, the big world of town hall. I don't know if maybe the way that I'm understanding, you know, like sort of sensing issues and bringing it into town hall is different from what everybody else is sort of picturing it. But yeah, that's sort of the feedback that I wanted to throw out there.
Thanks, Mercy. Rhys and then Harris.
Yeah, I agree with what you both said, you know, and one of the biggest responses when you say anything's in the town hall, like come to the town hall, is like, oh, well, I can't go to that, which is fair enough, you know, because for a very long time I couldn't go to that. And the truth is, it's just that it's not good enough. You know, that's the issue that we're facing, is just saying town hall isn't good enough. We need to have other options for other people, and whether that means it's different social channels, whether it means there's you know, like a front page of some kind, or whether there's a newsletter even of something that we just email out to everyone, and so that it becomes as frictionless as possible for the people in the community to actually access this kind of information. You know, we'll just throw it at them, you know, to the highest degree that we can, so that people can't there are more than one option. There needs to be more than one option, and that's the thing that we're really facing. And one thing as well about town hall that I have seen, especially that in the last one, and I feel like I saw it in the one before as well, but I can't really remember off the top of my head, is a lot of abusive behavior in the chats. And it was like, I don't get sensitive about anything, or any don't get offended by anything, but it was a bit much, you know. Like there are some personalities that turn up to town hall who are literally just causing trouble, and there needs to be some kind of management of that. Like poor Daniel and JP and everyone who was present for that, like, had to justify it to other people who are complaining, and they it seemed like they don't know what to do about it. And I mean, you can kick the people, right? But I don't know what the thing is, but I understand why people might get put off by the town hall, because it is a bit tough, right? It is a bit tough.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, you know, in town hall, yeah, I'm not suggesting we have to take a discussion and immediately bring it to town hall, but what we need to do is probably there's a limited number of people that are actually looking at this board. While we think it's there and it's publicly available and people can come and read it, they're not, right? So, I mean, just like an executive summary of like, hey, here's some things that happened. And then when we do our updates in town hall, then that's captured. And potentially, if we wanted to, we could actually rip out that content of the video for the circle update and then blast that in every channel that we have through our constituencies. Says, here's an update of what circle is up to, right? Where it's not this 2-hour block, right? But it's an edited portion of the 5 minutes where we actually make an update. Just as a suggestion, kind of riffing off of your ideas there, Rhys.
I love this brainstorm. I also so one of the suggestions that was made, people are always teasing me because I'm not on Twitter, and it just wasn't something that I adopted personally. But that's also a setback for the role because it's a separation between that conversation that could be happening, whereas it's happening for me stronger in other places. But if people are only in those places and not somewhere else, so one of the suggestions was, should we have like let's let aside that there's probably like account and all kinds of stuff attached to this, so not getting too technical about it. Should like the rep role, each of the rep roles have like a Twitter account that gets handed on and on and on, so that communication could be happening in that way? Or should there be like a member of the admin team that is like the sender out or social media person for channels, so that all the just like we're trying to reach all the town halls, so we're trying to reach all the channels, that kind of a thing, or all the main channels. I don't know the answers to these, but perhaps as a beginning, we do actually a lot of reporting and a lot of summarization that could easily go out now. I don't know which is the cart and which is the horse as far as delivering it, but maybe the delivery could happen sooner than a more formalized kind of KPI reporting structure, because a lot of the things that people aren't experiencing, maybe it's just because it's not coming to them in the place that they are. So maybe that's like a further conversation, and that could be had when we have space to really get into the nuts and bolts of it.
Joey, and then Rhys.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, and maybe I haven't communicated to you guys their contact information, but one of the things I've tasked the subcircle folks with is not only to go to all the different town halls and present anything that people here in the circle want presented and to listen, but also go to the social media groups. So if I'll try to share their information with you so that you guys can reach out to them, and anything you want them to present on your behalf of your role or the circle as a whole, they're more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that's awesome. The main challenge, the main challenge is coming up with a solution and implementing it fast, because it takes us 2 weeks at a time because of how our meetings are separated to actually implement things, and that's not a criticism of anyone, that's just, it can't really be much faster unless we make a decision on the day. And I think that's something that we could all strive to improve together, is try to implement things faster. And it's so much easier to say than it is to do. And I completely respect that. And I'm not saying that anyone's at fault here, but just to satisfy anyone in the community or everyone in the community, because we're essentially I forgot the term, but it's like we're community support officers essentially, right? So we need to play that role. And all it could be something really, really simple, like share the video, I don't know, afterwards on Twitter, on Reddit, on the main crypto or Cardano community channels. It could be on the Cardano forum, for example. And it could just be like a quick 10-bullet summary of what's happened, a link to the GitHub prioritized problems, and the video that's on YouTube for the actual meeting that's published, and that all it would need to be. It could have a link to the QA DAO or the minutes or the transcription. It could be all of the information, and you can just say, look, if you just follow this channel, follow the Catalyst Circle Twitter account or whatever, then that's it. And it doesn't need to be overly complex. It doesn't need to be a huge amount of work. We just need to implement it as soon as possible, so that, because it's right now that people are asking questions, and the faster that we can address it, the better for ourselves and for the community, you know, and ourselves selfishly, because we all take in this criticism at the minute, and it is fair enough. You know, there's nothing wrong that's being said, but we need to actually adjust it and kind of fix it and redirect it as soon as possible.
One thing that the admin team can definitely help with is creating a Catalyst Circle Twitter account. And then it is possible through the integration to tie that into Slack so that you have a dedicated Twitter channel. So any tweet that at Catalyst Circle or mentions the circle, it can pull the tweets into that channel so that it's very visible. And we could use that as an announcement only mechanism to do just what Rhys said. But if we want it really fast, maybe we just broadcast QA DAO's channel around and say, here's where all the minutes and everything are already happening. And that might be a short-term solution as well.
So I defer to the Twitter experts, which are not me, but I would think that if we just created that account, and then each of us could post to it, and I don't know how that would be done. Maybe it's like parentheses CA rep or parentheses Toolmakers rep after a post, or that's probably way too many characters, but some way that we could use that as an outgoing channel as a beginning and say, okay, here's the start. We're going to use this. Please connect with it. And you can communicate and ask questions to it. And then maybe someone has eyes on it, or we split the responsibilities of it up in some way that's helpful. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but really hearing you, Rhys, on that. And I think it's a great response to have something like, we had the Twitter space, we're having this conversation. Let's respond to this quickly because we can. What's the best way that we could do that? Starting with Twitter specifically, because it's a really underrepresented place as far as something official and organized from the circle perspective.
I was just going to add, you know, I know pointing to QA DAO and sort of the detailed verbose notes that are available is great. But if there's a way to summarize that into like, here's the weekly snippet of these 10 bullet points or 5 bullet points of what the circle has done, produce that content, and then we share that little bit of content out to the world, along with the detailed links, but really elevating the executive summary of, okay, here's what's happening. You know, because again, just sending a link, I don't know how many people will click on it, but if we could bring that content forward, it might get the word out of what we're progressing on and what we're listening to and what we're doing.
Joey. And then we got to
I-
move on because we're getting to the end of the allotted time for this topic. But it sounds
Okay,
like
I'll be
we're
quick. I recall seeing a short video. I forget who made it, but it was a synopsis of one of our meetings, and the guy was really quick. It was short. He was precise. He said, you know, Harris said this, and he brought up this subject. I'll try to find out where that was, but there's people out there that are creating something that might be helpful for us.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's a guy who has summarized our meetings on YouTube, and he does it in like 20-minute videos or something like that, where he just takes the snippets and explains everything. Like, he'll do it for this video. Well done to that guy. I can't remember his name, but I'll find out. I think Quasar sent it to me, and that would be the perfect thing to share.
He's going to be so excited to hear his name on this. Kidding.
Yeah.
Hi, Sam.
He does good stuff. He takes a 2-hour meeting and condenses it into a 20-minute summary. But that's another good point is this is an additional responsibility for somebody to do. And we'll need to figure out who has time and who can do a summary, because it involves, maybe it's something QA DAO can provide as a summary service since they're already transcribing and doing all that, or somebody on the admin team can do it. But we'll need to discuss that because it is additional duties to an already pretty highly stretched group of people. But I totally see the value in there. JP.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing from the call that we were on the space the other day. I think the outreach person is a really good idea. Like right now, the admin team I don't know that we have the capacity, but if we brought somebody on specifically to do these updates that really go to all the channels and show, take this executive summary and then, blast it out everywhere, I think that would go a huge way. So maybe something we want to discuss if the circle's interested.
Yeah, we could talk about hiring a public relations person for the admin team.
Exactly.
And there's a perfect example. So Danny produces every Friday sort of a summary of what's happening in Catalyst, which is awesome. So something like that he just blasts in every channel. Here's town hall, here's what to register for this, it's like all kinds of links, but an update nugget as well, which is really amazing.
And that's exactly what we need.
All right, let's keep that conversation going. I think the admin team is having an AMA on Saturday at Swarm, and maybe as part of that, we can start to engage with the community, see if anyone's interested in a PR role, and then we can figure out how to fund that.
Is there an existing prioritized problem we can attach this to?
Yeah, the outreaching reporting and KPIs, I think it would be perfect. The one that I already started.
Okay. Yeah, maybe let's add some notes to the ticket.
That sounds good. All right. Next topic on the agenda is about the issue sensing process and DeWork. Nadia.
Okay, awesome. Nora, can you make it possible for me to share my screen?
Yep. Oh, you should already be able to.
Okay, cool. Let's see if I can get this up here. So this is just an update. So last time I was talking about how we just have a little bit of a pilot happening within this group for, let me see if I can not talk and shift at the same time. For this project workflow and also, so issue sensing, raising, and project workflow. And I just thought I would show this, one, just to show something and how it's working, and two, to invite feedback from everyone else on the call to help think about how we can maybe look at some of these issues that don't belong to CAs and VCAs, but also where there's been feedback on it, and think about how we might, if we want to address them, and just invite involvement in it. So for this particular fund, we just collected all of these different comments on social media channels, on the Telegram and on the Discord server, of things that people were noticing that needed help. It could just, and it also was suggestions, so issues, suggestions, and requests. Request is like, could this something be added to the guide? Suggestion is like, could we add an extra day of review to this process? Questions that came up again and again, idea scale glitches, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of an intimidating document, but we just looped it all into one document here, and this is where it ended up. And then we put it into a table of contents where we looked at what is the issue, and then we just copy pasted literally like conversations to chronicle that information. So then the question was like, okay, what do we do with this? Now we've sensed all these things. Over this period of time, we have been thinking about using how to use GitHub and how to make our conversations more, the work on conversations and on projects more centralized. And so we came up with using this tool called DeWork, which creates an interface between Discord, which is a place where we have the server for the CAs and VCAs, and GitHub, so that it can be archived and follow a similar process to the Circle process. So I just thought I would show this here. What we ended up doing is taking these issues. We asked for a group to form, which was like, we called the initiative subcircle, which looked at what initiatives could we work on, what problems could we work on here. And that subcircle came together and looked at everything and said, let's move them and work to prioritize some of these based on what the community thinks. And an easy way to do that was to move them into DeWork. So if this is new for you, it works very similarly to to GitHub. Sorry, let me go back one more here. One second. So it looks at, did the wrong thing. It looks at these. It looks at our different raised issues and lets us track and move them across so groups can form around them and work on them. Before, just like in our circle in GitHub, before they get to the Kanban kind of board, they show up as community suggestions. So this is a list of what I would call issues, to use the Governance Alive Stephen terminology. They show up as issues, and then we put them in here with the details, linked to the details of the document, and then different comments that were made on them, so that we had a little bit of a record that they were raised. And then people can come in here and vote on which ones they thought were the most important and could be prioritized. We also tagged them based on what part of the process they were related to. So here's proposer, here's CA, here's VCA. And some of them don't belong to our part of the process, but what we decided that just to get some feedback from the CA community, we would just include everything. And then once we prioritize these, we'll actually move them onto the CA or the VCA working groups so that subcircles can form around them. We prioritize the problem based on the problem sensing rubric, and we let groups start to work around them so that we can do the same thing we're doing in GitHub and in GitHub for the circle, which is to summarize and include all that group work and commentaries and document links and everything related to it, and the what happened and the KPIs and everything in one place. And then we, Jeremy actually took the whole process and just made it a one-sheeter so people could understand it within the CA community. So right now we're prioritizing the community vote, and then we're going to refine it and integrate and move these problems in different boards. So I offer this as like a method of just starting to think about it. My hope is that we get like 3 or 4 problems actually across the board so we can test it out. It seems to be working pretty well so far. We just launched it, and the voting is going to be open till Friday. So I'll say one more thing, and then I'll just pause for discussion and questions. My first thing is there was a great sentiment from the community that the CA group works on specific things that are specific to our processes, but that there's a lot here where these issues that were raised by CAs or VCAs in this assessment process are really belong to other parts of the process with other stakeholders. So not wanting to like work too much on that, but rather just hand over this information for other groups. So perhaps it becomes something that these become more like handed over, and maybe it's part of the joint work together between the CA and the funded proposers groups, that we sort of look at these things and we pass them on. A second thing is, should we open this to other stakeholder groups? Would others like to just come in here? I know it's within a CA environment, but that might be something where it would just be helpful for others to see it and experience the process and be able to consider it. And then thirdly, how should that happen? So for these other things, like for example, the proposal process and guide need update. So a lot of comparatively for right now, the voting is still open, but more people think that this should be something that's done, but it's definitely not something that is under the umbrella here. So this could be just sort of the information could be handed over and the community sentiment so that there's a sense of prioritization of it, but where should it go? Yeah, and our hope is that what will happen is that we'll move these problems along, and then the groups who are interested in seeing that solved will form subcircles around them with a champion and move those into a place where we have some new additions to the processes as we go. So I know it's a lot. The tools are different. What this tool also does is, that's not what I meant. What this tool also does is create a thread in Discord so it can be talked about. But this has not been launching Discord for me. I don't know what's happening, but so this will launch in a created thread that can be discussed, and then that group can also use that thread to discuss. So it has great integration with Discord, which is a place that we're active a lot. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Nadia. Harris.
I really like this idea of prioritizing with the upvote kind of concept. It seems like an interesting tool. One thing I'll just throw out there are a lot of integrations that potentially could come directly into GitHub. And so there are, like, GitHub and Discord sort of connections that can be made through third-party tools. So, because I know this is sort of an interim step, and then that could be migrated into GitHub and our prioritized problems. But I'm just proposing maybe there's an easy way to just go right into GitHub. But this looks like an elegant solution. It's amazing work for sure. I think it's really nice. Any tools we can use to our advantage in technology to make our lives easier is good. I'll just put in a specific example from Zapier, which is sort of one of those integration type points where you can connect GitHub and Discord. So maybe there's ways we can do that more in more places. It probably requires more evaluation. So I certainly like
clarify, Harris, that this also does that. So it goes into Discord and it also populates a project. Right now it will populate on like the CA GitHub repo. So it does go both directions, which is why this tool was chosen.
Oh, right. Okay. All
I
right,
didn't
cool.
say that, sorry.
No worries.
I jumped in the queue because this is interesting from an admin standpoint as well. And really curious about the process stuff. Like, I know this is really CA focused, but as you kind of started to talk about things that are a little bit outside the CA realm as well. So how do issues from here actually raise up to the circle level? And is it a mechanism for the CA rep to be sensing issues and say, oh, this one really has a lot of votes and should go to the circle? And then you'll bring those problems as a prioritized problem to the circle as one mechanism. And two, I really love that the subcircle is really experimenting with new tools and workflows and bringing some improvements, because I think if this works really well and there's good conversation and stuff, it may be something that the circle itself may want to try or do something similar. So yeah, I love the experimentation and really excited to see what different subcircles use as kind of their mechanisms to do similar processes.
I'll just respond to that quickly by saying that we're going to have these are working groups. So we have this shared ideas board. The shared ideas board is where the community suggestions live. But so we're still working out the exact governance of the whole thing. But our thinking is that eventually we will have what's called a steward of each of these working groups. And they will be responsible, similarly to how you're guiding us through the board, Nori, they will be responsible for making sure that these ideas, once prioritized, have that correct problem rubric, and then end up either in the community advisor working group board and move across, or in BCA or in operations, which is sort of a catch-all for everything else. Joey.
Yeah, I have two questions. One is concerning there's a tremendous amount of hours and effort going into this. The DREP is something that's an unknown for us. We don't know what their functionality is going to be. When they come in, there's a function of the DREP going to influence the outcome of all the work you're doing here. Is it going to change anything, or they're going to just be a part of the solution? I'm not sure if they're going to change all the work that you've already done. So that's one question. And the other question is, even when it comes to the circle, when you come with a solution, and this goes back to the Toolmakers, who is going to have the authority to implement that change into the community? Those are my questions.
I don't know exactly how to answer the DREP question. I think what we've created here is a model. So I want to give a big shout out to Scott, who did just a great amount of digging and research for this and build of the creation of the server for us, which we didn't previously have. So yes, a lot of research and a tremendous amount of work has gone into this in order to create this, model. I want to put this in here to say we have the population of these threads, so they can be threads as a result of where is it here? Not finding it. Here we go. So the shared ideas board will create these threads and they can be talked about. And I would imagine that as we want to archive this and also as we evolve, you'd have the benefit of seeing what's been historically done and also transition it forward into as new needs arise. So it's a dynamic environment here where you can actually continue to change it over time. Does that answer the first question? I think because there's question marks as to how we'll grow ultimately, it's more of a model and a space that is agile and can be adapted as we go, rather than something that is written in stone right here and doesn't have flexibility to
Yeah, I
change.
guess, I come from an environment where you have all these different departments and silos and people are working on things at the same time. I guess my concern is all the effort you're putting into it, is it going to change once the DREPs step into the environment? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. And so that's my concern.
Probably there'll be a need to change aspects of everything will change over time, right? So I think what you have here is a model of how things work together. Tools might develop that are better fits, but we're trying to create a framework here for being able to work together, communicate, log, and archive across a period of time. So that should be independent to a certain extent and adaptable. For example, I would imagine that Rhys would use this completely differently than this group, or maybe not, or certain parts of this would be helpful, but maybe certain governance parts would be different. And the same thing for Mercy and the same thing for Dumpling, like that we'd each adopt parts of it that are helpful. And so what we're looking to do here is establish a way of working and to invite both collaboration within it and other adoption of it outside of this. It's just one way.
Mercy, and then Harris, and then we need to move on to Harris's code of conduct topic, or we're going to run out of time. So go ahead, Mercy.
Yeah, so very quickly, Nadia, that's a fantastic presentation. We can connect offline in terms of, how to involve the funded proposal subcircle, because, shout out to Vanessa. She's leading sort of a rewrite update of the proposal guidelines. So I think that is something that can easily be taken over. So we can definitely have a discussion offline. We were still sort of prepping, so that was the reason I didn't raise it, but it looks like it's a big need within the community, and also just a close association in terms of who speaks for the proposers. This morning I woke up to some, he seemed quite distraught in terms of, proposers not finding or not having any avenue to seek redress. So that's something that we definitely need to talk about. So maybe I can raise it at the next meeting for us to maybe figure out if any actions that we can take.
Thanks, Mercy. Harris.
Yeah, I was just going to discuss the DREPs. The DREPs are essentially sort of a new actor in this, and they're essentially informed voters with time to spend in reading proposals, and they're incentivized sort of as such. So there definitely could be some interaction, but the intent is, we're rolling this out as sort of a pilot, see how that fits together and how the interactions will happen. I wouldn't say that they would suddenly change this process, Joey. And so just kind of give some perspective that they're just going to be an informed voter. We do want them to collaborate and ideally, form ideas about specific proposals and challenges, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they'll have influence over this process.
Thanks for the clarification, Harris. Since you have the floor, do you want to move into the last agenda item, the next steps for the code of conduct?
Sure. Yeah, you bet. So, we've definitely had a good working session in the last breakout that we had as a circle, which was great. We came up with a lot of ideas and thoughts on what we should and should not have. We've taken that input now and has put it into this sort of wiki survey. And we've got 58 participants in the wiki survey so far. We have talked about bringing this actually into an after town hall. And I just kind of want to gauge the support of doing that. So, if we take this into after town hall, let's say next week, we can run it very similarly as an open brainstorm, and potentially I could have conducted that this week, but I didn't have a lot of support from the circle, so I just kind of want to confirm you folks could either participate in that after town hall or be there, or do we have enough data now using this additional resource, which is sort of this wiki survey? Is that enough information for us to proceed with? So I kind of wanted to pose that question. So we can certainly get more data points, have an open dialogue and discussion, and that actually may bring out more comments and feedback of things we should and should not do. So maybe I'd like to gauge the circle's opinion on, should we still press for an after town hall? And again,
oops, did I interrupt?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I can certainly go through a little bit of detail of the results that we've seen so far, if that adds more color. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just quickly going to, what Nori said during our call regarding what the community, says that should we or can we write our own code of conduct? So in terms of next steps, I'm wondering if, how are we sort of integrating that with what we're doing right now? I don't know if Nori, how does that look? Should we just push ahead, or is there a way that we can reconcile?
From an
and this
perspective?
Yeah, no, not from admin, from a circle perspective. This comes back to what Harry said in terms of, taking it after town hall and participating from the circle. Has there been so far in terms of even the feedback, has there been any concerns regarding the sort of straw dog that we did in terms of, putting something out there? No, it's a non-issue at this point.
I haven't heard of any issues, but I do think that the direction is probably a good one, is to take the conversation next to the community and say, what do you think, and getting their input. And I think the poll has a huge amount of engagement. There's like 2,899 votes cast on the different topics. So that's a large amount of engagement. So I think it is being done transparently and openly and having a conversation. So I think the circle is clearly steering away from the circle creating code of conduct for the circle, which is kind of, that raises a lot of eyebrows, but the circle facilitating the conversation for the community to create or co-create a code of conduct is that makes a lot of sense, at least from the admin's perspective and the transparency and the fairness of that. So we don't have any ethical flags raised, at least from my side.
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted us to get that on record. Thanks.
Okay, and so yeah, definitely let's, if it makes sense, and if we have kind of agreement, then we would do an after town hall, open it as another brainstorm. Would folks agree with that?
Are you thinking of this for this coming week, Harris, or just an agreement on having one in the future?
We can do it right away. I mean, we have the brainstorm board available and we can conduct it. I just, would like commitment from others to help me.
I'll be there. I can be there, Harris.
Awesome.
I'll be there as well to help.
Yep.
Great. And so thank you for the support. I appreciate it. And so for next steps, then, so we'll conduct the after town hall. We'll have additional input. Ideally, if we can rebroadcast this one more time for each of your constituents, I think that would be really helpful. It would be nice to have a statistically sound number of at least 100 people, would be nice. I think we have a lot of great data here, and then it will come down to interpreting this data. So, I think at the very bottom of the list, there's sort of every single question, and there's sort of a summary. I don't know if you can scroll down a little bit more, all the way down to the bottom. So there's certainly some grouping. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of specific groups, being represented, but in these individual questions, the column that's on the leftmost side with the green and red has some good indication of, the general trend for that question. Like, is it a yes or no? So that overall kind of perspective could be helpful. So for instance, item number 1, it's 88% are really saying no to this. So that would be a clear indication of we should not, or that's a no to that specific question. And so, do we want to just sort of take a majority and then actually use that as input to draft something? And so ideally it would say, okay, we do these things, we don't do these things. Code of conduct is probably going to be more focused on what we don't do, and we can message more of what we do to the community through other channels potentially, or captured in the code of conduct as well. That's fine. But ideally that we have a finite list that says, okay, here's what we want to include in that. And then I can take that and get a draft made by our legal team. And then we can actually broadcast that out to the community for any further comments. Does that sound like a reasonable approach? Okay, we got one thumbs up. Any opinions?
The main thing was you want to get 100 participants minimum, really, don't you? So if we can
target, yeah.
If we can double the number we got right now, get to that 100. I mean, most of this, looking at these results, are basically what they're basically in line with what we all knew, isn't it? Like, obviously some of them are worded the opposite way around, and so there's a lot of no's, but really that just means people agree with our initial idea about what is appropriate in terms of how we conduct ourselves as Catalyst Circle reps. So I think we can actually come with a very basic draft to the community in the town hall and say, look, this is what we've come to. We want comment before we finalize it with the legal team, and we could take it the other way around, rather than giving it to the legal team first and then having to make loads of changes. We could just come with the statements and then go, right, this is roughly finalized feedback from the community, and so there'll be minimal edits for a legal team to fiddle around with on the back end.
Sure. So the suggestion you're making is that we come up with a sort of a finite list, and so there could be a brainstorm in the next week, right? We get additional input points, and that's sort of maybe the last round of input, and then we sort of summarize that and share that as a summarized list. Does that make sense? And then bring that reviewed spreadsheet or whatever that item is, share that with the community before it goes into legal input.
Yeah, I mean, even like our meetings the day after town hall, which is a little bit awkward, right? Because that puts it off by another week. So I think we could bring that to a town hall meeting next week, and then review it on Thursday if we have a meeting, so that we can then send it straight off. And then hopefully by the next time round, we'll have it, and we can actually say, like, guys, this has been done. Now we've finished it. We put it away. Everyone knows how we need to behave, and we'll all make sure that we conduct ourselves appropriately. Otherwise, I just think we risk it taking another week to be able to, or another 2 weeks even between meetings, to really have it sent out and distributed amongst the community, which it just seems like unnecessarily long amount of time.
Okay, so we could broadcast this questionnaire this week, right? And then actually have the opportunity at after town hall. So the question is that a brainstorm, or is that a review of what we have?
Could do maybe a little of both, because we do have clear majority statements are emerging here, which might be good to just validate. But we also have a divisive statement that would be really good to get clarity on and talk about as a community. And there are 4 opinion groups that are forming, so we clearly have some groupings of people too. So these are all interesting data points that I'm not quite sure how to leverage that in a breakout, but there's lots of interesting points there. So.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll do a little bit of both. So that means that we need a little bit of pre-work going into next town hall that produces some summary, or maybe we're just showing this report also as, but we want to make it constructive and not necessarily, okay, let's go through these 100 things. But we would like to make it clear that this allows you to add new things, and maybe that's not always clear when we're saying, hey, here's a poll, like, please take this. A lot of people may perceive that they don't have that ability to contribute, but they do. And so that's what makes this a little bit different, and hopefully really helpful to capture the opinion of the community. So we want to encourage folks to come in here, add comments and vote, and let's get the word out further. So maybe we can get closer to 100.
And just when you report out to your communities, this tool isn't just a single-use poll. You don't give your opinion once. It really works best if people come back over and over again and see the new statements and vote on the new statements and keep that momentum rolling. So just to put it out there, I don't market it as a poll. I don't know the right words to use, but it's an engagement tool, and you should come back multiple times to get the most out of it.
A wiki survey is sort of a good phrase, which kind of captures it. Maybe it's not perfect, but I think it's how they describe themselves for the poll.is folks.
Can we make just like some exact decisions about when it's going to close, and are we going to do the after town hall this coming Wednesday, the 5th? And that would be nice to put in with the announcement when we rebroadcast it.
Yeah, let's close the discussion. Definitely on the back end, I have control to stop it at a specific point. So I would agree, maybe, do we do it at the end of town hall?
Or maybe a few
I
days.
see town hall as being another option, another opportunity to get loads of people in, right? Because what's going to happen is we're going to share it all again, and we're going to get a bunch more engagement, and then we'll go to town hall and we go, guys, great feedback from everyone. I'm so glad you all took part, and everyone's going to go, I didn't see that, right? So what we should do is let people actually do it whilst we're in town hall as well, so that they can have a chance to actually take part as well, and we can, if we have our meeting the next day, then we can do a full finalization of it there based on the extra feedback, because I know we're going to get that, right? Well, as soon as we bring it up in town hall, we're going to get loads more engagement right on the minute. Everyone's just going to go and do it straight away, which is great. That's a good thing. So I don't think we should close it out before. I think we should wait till afterwards.
Okay, so how about, like right before we actually meet as a working session?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that'd be perfect, right? Because it's all you're doing is showing the report straight away, right? It's not like you have any work to do for that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then the town hall would be the following week. That feels good rhythmically and gives us time to prep it, so it doesn't become what you said, Harris, like, here's point 1 and here's point 2.
Yeah, exactly. And we can talk about it live in the town hall as well. We can have that open discussion with everyone, or whoever's present. And so it just means we get direct feedback in the moment, and we get more surveys filled out as well, which it can only help us, right? We just get both types of data straight away, which is going to just make the feedback a lot better.
Yeah, but plus I think this can address, like, the question of what do we do? Like, okay, here's what the circle is doing, right? It actually helps to answer some of that question as well. So cool.
Can we get a definitive date on the closure?
Thursday,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah, Thursday the 5th at let's call it 2 p.m. UTC, which is an hour and a half before we meet.
Right. So we'll do it after town hall. Some of us will be there to help support Harris, and then we'll meet the day after on Thursday for a working session to go over the results. Awesome. Solid next steps.
Probably that would be a good one to, is that a good one to live stream as we go through that data? That might be interesting. What do you guys think?
Good.
Yeah.
You can definitely record it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to live stream it. We didn't do the last one just because we thought it would be a big brainstormy, everyone chatting kind of thing. But this should be a bit more definitive, right? So it'd be great feedback for everyone else as well.
All right.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that input.
Thanks, everybody. So let's wrap up for the day since we're right at the end. I just put in chat a link to the feedback form. So just as a reminder, please fill that out and give us your feedback and also short updates on what's been going on. And then we'll do our closeout. So let's do a quick, how are you doing, where you're at, and any closing remarks. We'll start with Joey and then go to Nadia.
Yeah, I just want to comment that when I first heard the term human sensor and some of our discussions, I thought just listening, but I've come to realize that you're sensing a lot more. I mean, actions speak louder than words. So when I went out and I started looking at these proposals and I saw all the ideas, you can kind of determine that where some of the concerns are in the community. And we got a lot of people working in a lot of different directions. Like we saw just on Wednesday, there's like 2 or 3 landing pages going on. So there's more ways to sense than just listening. You can sense by observing what people are doing and the actions they're taking. I just want to say that.
Thanks, Joey. Nadia and then Harris.
I appreciate the increasing productiveness of these meetings. I feel like we're hitting a good stride together and actually like addressing really important topics. I'm still feeling a little bit like, maybe I'll post in Slack for everyone following this. Still feeling a little bit like I'd like feedback on how to handle some of these other issues, because I don't want them to just like float away into the ethers of nothingness, since I do think that some of them are really important and need at least some attention. So I'll post that and I hope we can keep that conversation going a little bit and get some feedback from you guys individually. Thanks.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely a very interactive discussion. I think we made some good progress, and we're looking at the boards, and I think if we can make some improvements on maybe scrubbing some of the issues that are in there, and try to identify things that could become actionable. Listening is very important. How do we make that actionable, right? And there can be some things of those tickets that may just live forever, but please take time, go through the list that you have and see if it makes sense. So each of us, if we could do that, I think that would be really helpful. But in general, feeling very, very good that we've been able to start clicking as a group, and really happy to be working with everyone.
Mercy and then Rhys.
I will not add anything more. I totally ditto everything that has been said. Great meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, Mercy. Rhys and then Dimitri.
Yeah, all good for me, guys. I like the momentum that we're building now. I think it's really positive, and I think it's really going to help us going into the next couple of months to really actually get stuff done, and hopefully get a lot more reporting and a bit more positive feedback from the community, which would be lovely for all the hard work everyone's doing.
Thanks, Rhys. Dimitri and then Dumpling.
Yeah, I agree with Rhys. Productive meeting. It's moving smoothly from point to point, and progress being made on each of them. So it's a good meeting.
Thanks, Dimitri. Dumpling.
Agree with Rhys and Harris and Nadia. I'm actually very lucky to be working with all of you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And I would echo that. In previous circles, this is the point where circle V4 would normally start to jump in because the fund is over and we're voting. So that was kind of the frustration every circle has felt, is kind of just starting to hit all cylinders and then their term is over. So having this 6-month experiment, I think, is going to be really cool to see how the second term goes and how effective everything is. So yeah, thanks everybody for a really engaging meeting. I'm super excited with all the work you're all doing. So thank you, and have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Nori.
All right.
See you later, guys. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.